What's going on, guys? My name is Barry.
This is Colby.
And this is the WWT commentary show.
Yeah, that way you could see our faces. You've been listening to our voice for the last 2 years.
I know. I know, and now we're trying to get you guys shorts on our TikTok and our YouTube channel, so maybe you guys can check those out a little bit more.
Right, so you can become addicted to these faces.
Right, to get used to these mugs. Today we're not doing anything. We're not going to be watching a movie or anything. We're going to be doing topics on like movies and stuff. And I had to hit Colby with the simple something I kind of been wondering. But Colby, what are your top 5 horror icons? All right, Colby, so you can go ahead and take the first pick.
Okay, so the newest contestant, sure to be a major competitor as his series grows. He doesn't talk, might give you a giggle. The creepiest clown since Captain Spaulding. With only 2 movies, he's racked up 26 bloody kills. Big hand for the clown.
I know, the new kid on the block. All right, that's a pretty, it's a pretty fitting that he's at number 5.
Right,
because he's still new.
2 movies. What? 2 movies in a short?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for my number 5. Give me the only being in the universe able to go lyrically toe-to-toe with Eminem. Mr. 1-2, buckle my shoe. I got a hold on the gold and I don't mind going bold. Standing at 3'6", the small beast from across the seas. Give me the leprechaun.
Hey, you can't deny somebody who's been to Vegas, been to space,
Did you know that there's like a theory going on that every Leprechaun movie is a different leprechaun?
Interesting.
That's why, but I think
it could be because there's a bunch, right? There's a bunch of leprechauns, and they might all look the same.
It also explains some of the inconsistencies in the story, right?
That's true. That's true.
All right, Colby, who do you have at number 4?
Whether you're in Japan or in the U.S., never ever watch that unmarked video, or you'll only have 7 horrifying days left, unless you choose to be the monster. I bring you the drowned spirit crawling straight from your TV into your fears. Samara or Sudoku.
All right, depending on which one you watch.
Right, yeah. It's made twice, 2 different languages. We got it. It's just one.
All right, that's a solid number 4, though. And I'm kind of ashamed of myself that I don't have any Asian horror icons on here. Right? You think
I was trying to keep it like English too, but this one was like,
it's too
since
good.
It was both, I figured I gotta throw it in there.
Yeah, it's too good. Give me the unrelenting Colby. The type of ambition that women love if it was towards killing horny teenagers. Give me the machete-wielding seasonal killer from Crystal Lake. From Crystal Lake to outer space. Jason Voorhees. Now I gotta explain why I have him kind of at a low place. Jason is amazing at having these awesome kills, but he doesn't have any dialogue.
You like the witty repertoire.
Oh yes, exactly. I'm saving that spot for number 1. Who do you have at number 3, Colby?
Okay. You might seem like just a kid's story, but this thing will haunt your nightmares. Avoid the dark and the basement, or the Babadook will be waiting.
Wow, you got some slow burn new age horror on there.
I'm like total hipster. I'm all like, oh, I can't pick like the ones that everybody knows, right? I gotta, you know, think outside the box.
I think I had to go with the what's it called, like the OG icons for this one. You know, so it's a little switch up for everybody. Everyone's gonna be like, "Whoa, Kobe's going with the new age." Because I mean, for my number 3, I got the original New Body Who Dis, the body morphin, all engorging alien from the ice that's not too nice. Throwing everyone and everything into mayhem, and the originator of the Mafia game. Give me the alien being from The Thing. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I keep hearing that there's going to be like a third Thing movie.
I mean, like, I don't know how... Because then, like, the premise of, like, the original James Cameron The Thing and the 2011 with Winstead, which was, like, a prequel to the James Cameron did it, right? I'm, like, gonna get roasted. Like, how else are you supposed to do that, though? Like, it's such a great contained horror thriller that, like, where do you go from there? Other than just widespread pandemic, right?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Let it get out, and then
right, because then you basically just have Secret Invasion that just released on Disney Plus. Sponsor us. Only after the whole protest. Sponsor us after the protest. Colby, who do you have at number 2?
You see, in this corner, we have a man, or is it a monster, built for killing. It's his 23 years, so he has 23 days to do some feeding. I bring you the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, it's so good. Did you know that there's a new one that just came out recently?
Oh no, there's another one?
So after the third one, they came out with the new one that seems like, I don't know, it's definitely like a sci-fi original release. It is green screen where it doesn't need to be green screen. But I had to watch it because it's the Creeper.
Right. It was one of those movies where, like, the first one I watched it and like 90% through, I was like, this is the greatest movie. And then they bring him to jail and he sprouts wings and flies away, and I'm like, I am so confused. They have to make a sequel because I have no idea now what's going on.
Oh yeah, it was so good. The first one and the second one, gold. The third one, I don't know where it went. Which is a shame. I feel like it was such a waste of like a premier new age horror icon for like the early 2000s, right? Yeah. So for my number 2, give me the fam that bams all throughout the Death Valley. They say the fam that murders and kills together will stay and hump each other. Better hope you don't get stuck by these spikes, or else you'll have little tykes that won't look right. The family that's been riddled by radiation. Colby, give it to me. The Hill Have Eyes family. I tried to look for a name for this family. I couldn't find it.
Right? And the scariest, like the creepiest part about that movie, wasn't it like loosely based off of like a true story?
Yeah, or like at least like it's weird when like horror films talk about true stories, because it's like such a minor detail and they'd be like, yeah, that's a true story.
Right. Yeah.
Like
it also happened in a house, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like so like do you remember the movie The Strangers?
Yeah.
So like when I looked into it, because it says based on a true story, well, like the story was that like the director there had been a string of robberies in his house, in his neighborhood, and this random girl had like knocked on his door, and if there's somebody home, that home didn't get robbed. So like the concept, the start of the whole thing was true, but the whole murder thing wasn't.
Well, it makes it less scary, but that's one of those movies that just like hit me like in a.
Yeah.
It was like,
well, it's because it's because it happened all throughout the 80s and the 70s, right? And the Night Stalker, the Golden Gate, guy.
Right. But the directing on that just made it like overall just super creepy.
Yeah, so good. All right, Kobe, who do you have at number 1?
Okay, no matter what you do, stay out of the graveyard when this guy's around, or you'll get a spiked ball to the head. We are excited to introduce Angus Scrim, the tall man.
The tall
Phantasm.
Oh my god. I was like, the tall man. Is this a creepy pasta I haven't read about?
And that's totally one of those ones where it was like, I wasn't really allowed to watch horror movies as a kid, and then like that was one of the ones that snuck through. And so like definitely like iconic in my head.
Well, your mom probably thought that she was renting you Fantasia, the Disney movie.
She did one time rent me The Thing, the John Carpenter thing, and she thought it was like the 1950s thing because she was like, fine, I'll get you a horror movie. I'll get you an old black and white cheesy one. And then it wasn't. And that was also terrifying for me.
She was like, oh no, we have to turn this off now. That is disgusting. All right, for my number 1, right? Give me the man who, if he was a Pokemon trainer, his whole roster would be Gengars. The freak with no leash, the finger blade Mr. O behave, Dream Eater himself. I hope you never move to this town, let alone this block, because if you do, you'll be on the receiving end of his burnt cock. The man who built a movie studio. Give me Freddy friggin' Krueger. Now, Freddy had to be number 1 for me just because he was like the first experience of horror that I got.
Yes.
And like watching it as a 5-year-old, you're like, oh, I'm never gonna sleep again. And then the tiredness takes you and then you go to sleep, but still.
Right. Yeah.
And like it's funny because like the first movie, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, was really trying to be like scary. It was trying to be this like horror slasher that was different from Halloween and Friday the 13th, because this is something you can't outrun. And I think that's like another thing that was fair. And then obviously when it got to like 2, 3, 4, 5 and all that stuff, it really just leaned on to the cheesiness of it all, especially because Robert Englund is just so good at that. like man, talk about a guy who like really just needed one role and just went with it.
Right. And I knew him from other things, and he was always like meek and timid and a little goofy, and then the horror icon. Yes.
Yeah,
that was. And I remember seeing that in the theater back when movie theaters were like, "Hey, I'm 13 years old. I want to see Nightmare on Elm Street," and they're like, "You know it's rated R, right?" And I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Come on in."
Yeah, there's a time where like you just got to see boobs in G-rated films.
Right.
Like
or my mom would like wave from the car like in the parking lot so that like they knew it was okay.
See, nobody knows this, but the Stranger Things show, that's about Kobe. Kobe was Dustin. Oh man.
Yeah,
All right, we're gonna cut for this. Well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, here, I got one funny thing because I was just like, after I wrote my little things up, I was like, what would ChatGPT say if I said, introduce a horror villain in the style of a boxing ring announcer?
Oh.
And it said, and I hate that ChatGPT did this better than we do. It said, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and brace yourself for a chilling introduction. In this corner, weighing in at an eerie unknown, standing tall with unwavering presence, we have the embodiment of pure terror, the master of mayhem, the one and only Michael Myers. With a cold and calculated gaze that pierces the soul, this unstoppable force has struck fear into the hearts of countless victims. Lock your doors, brace your spirits, and prepare for a spine-tingling showdown like no other as Michael Myers steps into the ring of horror to claim its next bone-chilling victory.
Oh, it's almost not fair. But
Yeah.
see, but the only thing that it's missing is the comedy aspect of it.
That's true. Right, it's true.
Just as cold as Michael Myers' stare is, ChatGPT's also introduction is pretty cold.
When it writes things that are like that good, I have to thank it because I'm like, if I don't thank it, then it's just going to be mad at me when the robot uprising happens and I'm going to be killed. But they'll be like, oh, hey, that was the guy who was polite. Let him live.
I know. All right, let's move on to our next topic. And this is probably like I was like trying to think about like other topics, but I was like, this is gonna be our first time doing this type of recording with each other. So I was like, let's keep it a little bit light. But Colby, do you have a horror hot take?
I don't know. Like, what do you mean?
All right, so I feel like the horror community is gonna be really upset at me about this, right? But I hate these new slow burn movies. like what's it called? And by slow burn, I mean movies like The Witch, anything Ari Aster has done, which is like Hereditary, Midsommar, Beau is Afraid. I love my horror to be campy, to be funny, to be so unrealistic in these kills, or maybe realistic, because then I think there's like other movies, especially like during the whole Scream genre or like the Scream craze, like movies like Cry Wolf, Urban Legends. Those are within the realms of reality. I enjoy those because like I just kind of want to get out of my head these slow burn movies that have been releasing, which some people are going to comment at us, or at least at me. They're going to be like, well, you just don't get art house films. And I was like, I don't want your Festival de Cannes in my horror film.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like one of my biggest mistakes is taking a date to watch Midsommar.
Yeah, that's
because she was like, oh, I'm into horror too, so I was like, all right. And like I had never watched Hereditary, but I heard all the praise about it. And then so when Midsommar was coming out, it had the girl from the Marvel movies, what's her name, Lawrence Pugh. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I like her. I've seen her in things. So let's see how this movie goes. And I was like, in the middle of the movie, I was just like, oh, yeah, this isn't gonna end with me coming inside her home after this. Like the movie starts off with like a shitty boyfriend, and I was like, ugh. And you know, like the Babadook is, I feel like it's also within that realm, but there was a good enough amount of terror.
The Babadook weirdly scared the crap out of me. Like,
yeah, it had those scenes.
Yeah.
And then, like,
so like that year, I would say that like literally like that was probably the movie that spooked me the most that year.
Oh yeah, and it's because it had a really good amount of world building. Like, you know, they found that book. It's like this creepy story. It looks like it has like the art style drawn from it is almost like those what's it called? Scary stories to tell in the dark type of thing. And then, like, you know, it used like the atmosphere of the movie really well. So I actually really didn't mind the Babadook. And so yeah, that's fine for a slow horror, but man, like, you know, Midsommar and Hereditary gets all the praise as of late. And I was just like, I'm not into it. I'm gonna watch it just so I can say bad things about it.
Right. So here's my hot take then. So I have never watched a horror movie about werewolves that I thought was good. What? I mean, sure, like the special effects of like American Werewolf in London for the time was just stellar.
Oh, Colby.
I don't have, but just, I don't mind like the werewolves in like Underworld as like a sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
But as like a horror movie icon, I don't understand how that creature ever became as big as it did.
Oh, I mean, okay, so like the transformation sequence in American Werewolf in London is still, I think, still like top tier. A lot of people still regard it as like top 5 horror scenes, right?
Right.
But yeah, no, I can totally see. I mean, I can see where you're at, because I also like, do you find vampires scary?
I've seen some good vampire movies.
Yeah, but like it's never like, oh, that would be so scary, because I feel like I have a chance to fight it.
Well, like 30 Days a Night.
Oh, that's probably the
terrifying vampires.
Yeah, those have to be the most terrifying vampires in like vampire lore. Like, and especially in the comics, they look so much more visceral. There was like
even worse in the comics.
Yeah, there's like a huge amount of savagery with that vampire, but it's also with the werewolf. It's like supposed to be this super savage like being, but I can see where you're coming for that. Because like it's not really ever terrifying. It's like it's almost like an inconvenience once a month.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, but I also think that's because you watch that one, but then you also watch the one with Michael J. Fox. And you're like, same thing. So I think that's where you're coming from. You're like, oh, that was kind of terrifying. And then Michael J. Fox comes onto the scene with 3 movies.
Right. And he's doing like...
He's dunking.
Like surfing on top of a van, driving around. Yeah.
And he's like dunking in that hairy suit. So then it's like, oh, well, that kind of ruined the fear factor for the...
That could be it. That was about the time, because I was probably more watching that than I was watching horror movies at that age.
Because just imagine if like the Xenomorphs from Alien had a sitcom show that played out like Family Ties. You're like, well, I mean, they're terrifying in the wild, but once you domesticate them, they'll be fine. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us for the first little video call that we've done. Hope you guys enjoy. Check out our podcast where we talk about underrated films.
Absolutely, because they're the best kind. We love watching movies that nobody's ever heard of, and then telling you how good they are and recommending them,
or movies that you guys have forgot about. Because there's been there's been a couple that you've like put on, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen that in forever. But hope you guys check that out. Check out our TikTok for little clips, our YouTube videos for little clips, and like commentary and all that stuff. And Have a good one, guys. All right, Colby. Have a good night.
Have a good one.